Hey everybody, Rich from Elk Endeavors here. Hey, I wanted to talk today about consistency. And before I get started, I'm trying to get in the habit of calling you to action, which is please subscribe to my channel. If you like what I'm doing and you enjoy what I have to say, please let me know. Drop me a line, drop me a comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and let me know that I'm doing a good job. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear if you have ideas for my content, and anything else you want to ask me. Please let me know. So there's my pitch. Please hit the subscribe button and let me get started. So today, interestingly enough, I wanted to talk about consistency. And that's Brian Tracy's 7th principle, personal power principle, is consistency. Now, yesterday in my post, in either my blog post or my video post, I talked about consistency and how it was one of Brian Tracy's first couple of principles. But today I realized that it wasn't. When I went to review my material this morning, I realized that it's his 7th principle. So my point is that all of like I've been talking about, all of these things have to do with they're all overlapping. Everyone says the same thing. Everyone has the same ideas that we're and these are not new ideas. These are ideas that have lived over time and are important to entrepreneurs. Whether you're talking from Earl Nightingale to Napoleon Hill to Russell Brunson and Vic Stryjus and me. So at any rate, so I wanted to talk about consistency. I'm going to tell you a funny story. So one of the things that Brian, and I'll kind of illustrate this through Brian Tracy's idea, and it kind of goes toward the title of my video, which is, I don't know, I don't remember what the title that I've created for the video is, but, I have a friend, right? So Brian Tracy talks about how like everybody that you went to high school with or everyone you went to school with, they're all the same people, right? They all they're not much different than you, right? They're different in that they have chosen a profession or they've chosen a lifestyle that's different from you, but ultimately they're the same person. So they're not that much different than you, and it's important to think about that because when I think about the people that I hung out with in high school, it's very funny to think about how we all turned out, right? What paths we chose, how successful we are, and things like that. So my friend Derek is my example, and Derek was an absolute maniac in high school. I mean, this kid was, he was just nuts, and you could not keep him. You couldn't keep him still. He was on all my teams, and I was on his teams. He was a very good athlete. I kind of watched him play from the bench, but like ultimately he was just a phenomenal guy. Very funny, but like he was nuts. Like I don't know how his parents like put up with him. And I wasn't much further behind him, but I certainly wasn't as like maniacal as Derek was. So anyway, my example, like one of the examples of Derek is that when he was 14 years old, he would take his dad's van, like a full-on econo van, custom whatever, like how we used to have, and he would steal the van from his driveway, and he would come around and get all of us idiot friends, and then we would go van surfing like around the curvy roads near our neighborhood, right near our town, I should say. And it was nuts. Like you think about like a 14-year-old kid, he's 2 years away from his license, and he's running around and doing these things, and we're all with him. We're having a great time. We're falling all over the van. It was awesome, right? But like what would you expect a kid that did that to amount to, right? You might think that he might just be still doing that kind of nonsense, right? But Derek, amazingly, he went, he is now one of the top salesmen in his profession, and in pharmaceuticals, right? He started out in a pharmaceuticals company selling some sort of medicine. And then he got hired to do medical staples. He's been hired and brought in by so many people I can't even keep count. But that's because he has there's a demand for what he does because he makes it rain. And Russell Brunson talks about how like when you're a technician, right? Like even like a doctor who makes a ton of money is ultimately like capped at a certain point, right? You can't, like as a doctor, even if you're like the chief of X-ray radiology, radiology at a hospital, like you can only make so much money. So there's a cap on what you can make. Whereas a salesman or a rainmaker, like Derek is, who just like makes money at will for the company and therefore for himself, there's no ceiling. There's no limit to what he can make. And he's proven that, right? And Brian Tracy says, like, you can tell how successful you are by the number of job offers you get like every week, right? And like I said, Derek has been, like every time I talk to him, it seems he's got a new job. But this one time I texted him. I was watching the Flyers game, the Philadelphia Flyers, my favorite hockey team, and his mom used to work for the Flyers, and we're all excited. And I'm watching. I think it must have been a playoff game. But I texted him because the Flyers had just scored a goal, and so I texted him, and he wrote back, and he's like, I can't talk right now. I'm in California. I'm watching the game on my phone, but I'm in surgery. And he was in, like, he had been flown across the country, right, from Philadelphia to California, to sit in on a brain surgery, like an emergency brain surgery, to advise the doctor on how to use the tool that he was selling. Can you? I didn't even know that was a thing, right? I didn't know that was possible, but that's what he did. He would, like, someone called him at 10 o'clock at night and said they need you, they need you in California, and he got on the plane and flew to California. And then he was sitting like, I couldn't believe it. He was sitting in the surgery, and he texted me back, and he's like, listen, I can't talk right now. I'm in surgery. And that just boggled my mind. And so that's something that I think is, so going back to consistency, the reason that he was able to do this, the reason he was able to get to where he is because he's been consistently good and consistently dependable to his employer. And that's where it's so important to think about, like, how he was able to get to where he is, right? And that's what I want to make sure that you understand as an audience, right? Is that you have, like, I'm trying to be very consistent, and I've talked about that. Like, I feel that if at this point, I'm into like 50 videos in a row. Like, I've done 50 days of videos. I'm having a great time. Every time I do a video, I think of like 3 other ones while I'm talking. I'm not scripted. You can hopefully see the passion that I have, and that, like, I'm having fun. I'm being consistent, right? And that's how I'm going to build my trust with my customers, right? If I'm consistent and I'm consistently telling you the same thing over and over again, and that's where, then you're going to believe in me, and you're going to believe in what I am saying, and you're going to ultimately believe in what the products that I'm promoting, because you can see what they're doing for me, right? And if they can do it for me, they can do it for anybody, right? And that's really the crux of what I'm trying to do, is say, listen, this is what happened. Like, in the last 7 months, this is what has happened to me, right? I'm much better. Like, I'm a much better financial person, and I'm a much better, like, my whole being is different from being in the Success Challenge, because I worked on my personal growth. I worked on my financial understanding. Like, I understand money now as like a tool. Money is something that works for me, not the other way around. I don't work for money. I don't work for money anymore. The money works for me, and I'm putting it to use, and that's a huge thing. It never would have occurred to me, right, to do that. So if I wasn't consistent in my learning, and now if I wasn't consistent in the things that I was told to do, like, I've been told to do certain things, one of which is to to create and publish consistently, right? So I've gotten into a year where I'm going to do a video a day, 365 days a year, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do a blog post, same thing. And that's really important, right? So the consistency, and if I don't do that, then I'm failing myself, and I'm also failing my customers, right? And I don't want to do that, obviously. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, is being consistent. And going back to Derek, he consistently has performed and outperformed his peers for 25 years now. And this is a guy that was stealing his parents' van and driving us around to go van surfing on a weekend. So that's what I wanted to tell you about today. I love that story. I thought it would be fun for you to hear, and just fun to think about, like, what you can do and what other people have done with their lives. even though they might have been a maniac in high school. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please, again, hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. I promise I won't, I don't even know what tomorrow's thing is. I was concentrating on today, and worried about the fact that I had mixed up the days in terms of consistency and, you know, having Brian Tracy, but it's a good thing, right? If I'm repeating myself and I'm saying, like, these are the things that, you know, that all these people are saying, you, like, it's like, speaking of consistency, it's all consistent, right? It all matches up. I'm not telling you anything different, right? I'm not, like, I could ultimately, like, I could package all this stuff and sell it as a course myself if I wanted to, right? And maybe someday I will, right? But ultimately, it's not like, it's a way that I, like, the difference between, it's all the same stuff, right? I'd be saying all the same things. It's the way that I deliver it, right? That's the difference, right? I have to be a little bit different than Brian Tracy in order to get to the point where I'm speaking about it and people are flying me all over the country to hear me speak, right? And so that may happen someday. I don't know if I'm interested in that. If I wanted to, it will happen. But my consistency is, you know, it lives in the fact that other people have been saying this over and over and over again, and there's no denying it, right? That you have to write down your goals consistently. You have to think about your goals consistently. You have to take a step, right? You have to accept the challenge, take a step toward the right direction, and think about what your life looks like next year. Think about that. Where are you next year at this time? I don't plan to be in the same place, right? And I'm already, like, I've already moved on a little bit, you know, well, quite a bit, from where I was in February. But next February or next September, whatever, yeah, September, it's gonna be a completely different ballgame for me, right? And I know that because of what I'm doing and what I'm being consistent with it, and that's just the way it is. It's just the way it works. So I challenge you to take up the 4% Success Challenge. I challenge you to take a step forward and take a leap into the unknown, because there's a parachute, right? If you take a leap, if you're wearing a parachute, you got to jump for it to work, right? You have to jump out the plane before the parachute will work. So take that leap. You'll be all the better for it, and consistently work toward your goals, and life will be great. So have a great day. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.